here, and thank you, Kate, for bringing me here. So today, I'm going to just quickly talk about what we do and how that kind of relates to what the purpose of Civic Tech TO is. Is there a pointer there? Our slogan, as you can see, it's on our business cards and everywhere. It's Science to Society, and really our goal and our mantra, and when we start up new projects, that's what we try to do. We want to see if this is something that we can help use science and technology to benefit society. So, a colleague of mine pointed out that this is the 169th night of Hacknight, so I had to do that. For social media things. This is the University of Toronto. I think there's a bunch of people here who say that they're from there, so you probably know this is where the main St. George campus is at U of T. We have two locations. One here in the physics building. That's where we were born out of, so we still have a little office there. But everything that's interesting is happening in our best institute, which is right across the street from ours. That is where we have an incubator where we support approximately 30 to 40 startups. Unfortunately, that building is coming down soon. So we'll find a new home, but there'll be a new building, much nicer, that will be replacing it. The University of Toronto, blah, 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 this is something that I have to say. But I think it's important to figure out, to find out that, you know, the university spends $1.3 billion a year on research, and that is a staggering amount of money. And you know, obviously we actually do pretty well in terms of research and output. You know, 11,000 papers, and we have some top faculty in the world. Some really good high-impact journals, publications, and stuff. You know, that's sort of everyday stuff for a U of T researcher. But what we are wanting to do is to really think about how we can take that research and you know, impact society. You know, when you publish something and you have something in a science journal or something like that, you know, that's not really in and of itself doing any benefit to society at large, or making that big of a direct impact. Someone's got to take that paper and do something with it, and we try to help and encourage our graduate students, and even our undergraduate students, to think about how they can do something with their research. And so, so we do a lot of different things at the Impact Center. It might sound a bit disconnected, but basically everything goes back to that science and society mantra. So we do training. So training, we teach undergraduate courses about innovation and entrepreneurship. We have an internship course where we place students inside a startup to work for 100 to 200 hours. We have intensive entrepreneurship training courses for people who are serious about building a startup. And that's the end that I'm most responsible for. Startup, I mentioned we have a little startup incubation, so we do a lot of workshops with them. We try to put together some investor packages for them, try to get them some government funding and grants, even though those are hard to come by nowadays. And we also work with established companies, so the SMEs of Ontario, because we believe that the manufacturing sector here could use a lot of the innovation that's coming out of the university. And these small companies making light bulbs or whatnot, they're not reading through scientific and academic journals to find out what's being discovered at the university. So we want to be the ones that can bring it to them. Physical technologies. This is anyone recognize it? It's Catherine Fife from Waterloo. She visited, and we were trying to explain what physical technology means, because to a lot of people's minds, like technology and tech means coding and software and all that, whereas what we focus on are things that you have to make and manufacture. We do have software companies that we support, but really the core of what we do are things like this is a hand that's meant to test a company's great called Steadyware. So they make a glove that's battery-free, and it's silent, but it actually helps people who have Parkinson's disease and other essential tremors to control their tremors. And so that's a fantastic company, but they're making things. So our companies tend to take longer than typical software startups to get off the ground because they have to find enough capital to start manufacturing and designing and prototyping and all that. The Science and Society, we kind of view it as a four-step process, and again, technology in our eyes is really a combination of materials and industrial design and whatnot. So taking Science and Society, it takes quite a few steps. So you make a big discovery in science, and then you can package a few of those discoveries in science and existing technologies into what I call sort of your base technology for a company. And then you take that and try to make a product that someone can buy on a supermarket shelf or through a distributor or whatnot. But the product is what you're trying to sell to the public and the market. And it's really important to make sure that this part goes smoothly and that you do engage with the public about what they want. So we do a lot of work with scientists and engineers who think that their invention is the latest and greatest thing, and which, for most of the cases, it's pretty cool. But we have to frame it and package it such that people would actually want to buy it, and that people will actually use it, and that it's actually going to be useful. So this process actually takes a long time, and I like this to think about how the theories of quantum mechanics were born in the middle of World War I, but it took a hell of a long time and another World War to make the first laser in the lab. And so this is kind of like a technology stage that I spoke about back there. But it wasn't until 1974 when the first barcode scanner was developed, and that's the first sort of popular use of a laser in sort of the public. But if you can think back, I think not too many of you are that young, but I think in the middle of the 90s, or maybe early 90s, that's when they became really popular in libraries and bookstores and supermarkets to scan for prices. So it takes a long time. And the same path you can draw about MRI. So MRIs came into the scene in the hospital in 1984, even though the theories behind it were developed in the 1930s. So what I like to ask you to think about is, if we had made this process 5 years faster, how many lives would have been affected? How many lives could have been saved, right? So I think there's a lot of value in trying to accelerate the science to society pathway. Now, there was one unique case. Now, does anyone know who these people are?
Banking Invest.
Who's it Banking Invest? Alright, you win a prize.
I work at U of T, so it's the...
Oh, okay. Well, still, you'll still get a prize. So Banking Invest, this was a different time. This was back in the 1920s. They first extracted insulin from dogs in 1921, and by 1922 they were doing commercial production of insulin to stop kids, mostly, from dying of diabetes. And I think this is a case where it's never going to happen again. There are no drugs that will be improved this fast again. But really, I think the learning from this is that Banking Invest didn't just extract insulin from dog and then publish it in some journal. They actually worked with the university to build a relationship with a drug manufacturing company and labs to actually commercialize it. And I think that's a step that we have to keep remembering. If we're trying to do something for the community, for the world, someone has to do that step of bringing it out. So, this is the why do we work so many hours and such sort of difficult thing to work and trying to find money to pay for all this. Why do we do what we do? It's because we derive a lot of pleasure in seeing a graduate student take his thesis, turn it into a company, and then succeed. And success could mean that they managed to raise money and actually push a product out. Success could be seeing your product being used used by people. So anywhere that hand stabilizer, for example. Last week I saw them bringing in a guitarist who developed Parkinson's, and he was able to put on the glove and sort of start strumming for the first time in many years. And seeing that that just like makes everything worth it. But I think a lot of this is aligned with your organization and this event's point of view, is that we really want to use our expertise and our skills that we've developed through school, through work, to make a difference, to do something good. And I'm very happy to see groups like this spring up and actually have project nights where you're not getting paid for this, but you're doing it because you think it's going to be impactful. So we're going to talk about a few of our projects and how they came to be. So this is Pooja Viswanathan. She did her PhD thinking about with a group that focuses on technologies for older adults. So we know that our population is growing older, and eventually, the number of people who would need sort of assistive devices would increase. So we talked about that with Pooja, and she did a lot of searching and a lot of looking back at her own research to determine that one of the things that she could do is to solve a very specific problem. Is that people who drive electric wheelchairs often damage their homes and doorways because when they are trying to maneuver inside a small apartment, or actually, inside those tight stores in Chinatown where the shelves are only this far apart, they knock things over, and that A, causes them embarrassment, and B, it causes actual damage, and it might actually cause them to get hurt. So she developed an ultrasound sensor. It's an aftermarket product that goes onto wheelchair devices that uses audio, visual, and even like vibrations to tell people that they're near something and to slow down. Now, we enjoy that in sort of the new cars, but the wheelchair driver would not have that. And one of the weird things you find out when you make a product, sell it, and talk to your customers is that they find new uses for it. So one example came from the fact that one of her first customers were like, this actually makes me feel more secure, because whenever I drive around the city, I have my backpack with my laptop, my wallet behind my chair, and I never know when people are behind me and they might be trying to fiddle with the zippers and stealing things. So he actually felt a layer of security because he can now know what's behind him and feel people approaching him. So who knew? And they certainly did design for that. Just vertical. These two guys are plant biologists, so they're really good at selecting various cultivars of vegetables and fruit to help grow indoors. So their whole point is to create an ability for us to enjoy local foods, or even hyper-local foods. So we grow things inside our own homes, or inside restaurants, or inside our offices, and we can eat them. Now, compared to standard indoor gardening techniques, they try to make it very simple. They make individual pods that you can order. It's a monthly subscription. They'll send it to you, and you just plop them into their device, and it looks nice. And that does all the soil-free hydroponics. So what they managed to do is create these cultivars to work perfectly with their indoor farm. Which means that you can actually build your own, the whole salad inside this one unit. Like you can have your leaf vegetables, you can have your tomatoes, little strawberries, all within one unit. Now, this is meant for a high-end receptor. So, a nice office would want this as a talking point. Someone like a busy professional would like to have one of these in their living rooms, again, as a conversation piece. But that is to fund their ultimate goal, which is to reduce food miles and to enable people in the north to grow food. So they have a much more condensed unit. It doesn't look as nice, but it actually produces much more food per square foot, being installed in Nunavut. And they work really hard to ensure that everyone in Canada, no matter where they come from, can have access to cheap and affordable fresh vegetables and fruit. Pueblo Science is a charity at the Impact Center, and right now I'm here to recruit for people to volunteer and with us next year. So, Mayro Salvador, she grew up in a small town in the Philippines, and then she eventually did her PhD here in Toronto. We both did our graduate degrees. I did my master's in chemistry. So she found that what's lacking in her town is that people still don't have the same level of science literacy that she expected since she'd been away and came back. And people still believe that, you know, when a child drinks river water and gets sick, they don't think about the bacteria in the water. They still think that, you know, they must be possessed by evil spirits, and, you know, that child's health might be affected because of those beliefs. So her goal is to create a system where she can go to developing countries and work with teachers there to bring science experiments into their classroom. So things like beakers and test tubes and scales are expensive, and somehow, and I think sometimes it is prohibitively expensive for high schools in these countries, especially in the rural high schools. So she's developed a great booklet of techniques to use locally available materials like, you know, string beans and marshmallows to create DNA models and such, to really create engaging science experiments and experiences, really to get kids all over the world to start thinking and appreciating STEM, so that the next generation can really understand that, you know, science is not only impactful sort of on an economic side of things, but really on an everyday life and understanding of everyday things. And just to encourage you to go, I volunteered with them to go to Guyana a couple of years ago, and like it is one of the most beautiful countries. The interior, this is Country Falls. You get to go and have some fun after you work really hard for a week. But it's really fulfilling, because we met some teachers who traveled 17 hours. Like first a hike down the mountain, then a boat up the river, then a plane to the main city. But they were all doing that during their vacation time because they want to do that. And that makes me feel good. Talk a bit about triggering innovation. It's really hard, and the folks who are working with the government probably agree with me, it's really hard to get people to change. Things are the way they are because they are the way they should be, and the way they always were should be the ways they always should be. So in order to get people to think about change and our students to think about innovation, we have to find the thing that bothers them enough to want to do something about it. And this can be a personal problem, and a lot of students, because they have limited experience within quote-unquote real world, they think about really personal problems and they propose those. But they can be outside problems that you begin to develop and understand, like the example of the people driving the electric wheelchair. It bothered Pooja that people are still bumping into things, even though we've developed all these sensors and stuff. So she was bothered enough to do something about it and build her company. And so we really want to get students to think about things that really have impact, not what they perceive is a problem that needs to be solved, but what really needs to be solved. And so we get people in a room quite often, and we look at things like, what kind of skills are in the room? Are these coders, are these hardware people, are these material scientists? Who's there? Are there people who understand policy? And kind of importantly is we ask everyone what they're passionate about. And that's a question that a lot of people struggle with in terms of answering, and we send them away and think about it and come back. And then we start talking about things like what are the actual problems that need to be solved. Now, I've run a lot of undergraduate pitch competitions, and like the top thing that I've heard of, like in every single year, at least one group proposes is some sort of like valet laundry service during exam time. And I mean that's fine. I mean that could work. I don't know. But we try to work with students to think that maybe there's something that's a little bit more fulfilling to do than that. And also talking to them about non-obvious solutions. So a lot of people understand, and it's in the media, so people know about it, the problem with plastic waste, especially in our oceans. So, you know, there are lots of, if we use that as a sort of problem trigger for people to start thinking about solutions, a lot of them talk about like how do you clean things out, how do you get people to use other materials, biodegradable plastics and stuff. But, you know, not a lot of them think about sort of the cause, the root cause of plastic waste. And for example, if you think about developing countries, and you visit developing countries, you will be drinking a lot out of plastic water bottles because the tap water is unsafe. So maybe a solution to the plastic problem is to clean the water. Is to find a systemic way of getting people to stop using it because they can start drinking tap water. That's just an example, but you know, we try to get people to think collaboratively. Here's another example. This is about passion. This is Arjun and he and his partner Bin. They came to us as undergraduates trying to do something. They wanted to do something. But what? So Bin is a smoker, and he wanted to build a cigarette case that electrocutes him every time he tries to open it. And we kind of were like, you know, that's cool. That's something that you're passionate about. You want to quit smoking, that's great. But you know, think about it. You know, start really noticing problems, around him. Now, unfortunately for him, a couple of weeks after that, he actually came back to us and said, "I know what I want to do." I had a long conversation with my dad. And he was just diagnosed with inoperable glaucoma, so eventually he's going to go blind. Now I think my dad's too proud of a man to walk around, with a cane and a guide dog, at least in the beginning. So I want something to help him. And him and his partner Arjun created the buzz clip. So this is something that you would clip onto your shirt, another ultrasonic sensor. And what it does is actually it detects a lot of head level obstructions. So canes are good at detecting trip hazards and curb heights, but they found that like the way that they can make a difference is to help people sort of detect tree branches and whatnot. Another great story about this is that they did a crowdfunding campaign, got their money to make their prototypes and sent it to a blind orphanage in India. And there's this video that exists of the kids individually thanking all the people who donated. And when you watch that whole video, you can't help but cry. I'm tearing up just thinking about that video, but it is that feeling that drives them. But of course, they still had to make a product and a business that generates enough revenue to keep everything going. Immersion, quickly here, thinking about passion and ideas. This is a computational fluid dynamics theorist. I don't even know really what he does, but he really wanted to do something. Again, do something, but what? And after a long while and thinking about things, he created a new type of chiller and to work with a few engineers to make one of the world's most efficient coolers. So it actually uses heat, waste heat, ambient heat, in order to cool something using an absorption thermodynamic process. And so the immediate application is to use them in data centers. Data centers here, as you know, these are servers, they run hot, and they're a perfect customer for this company. But really, one of their goals is to actually create vaccine chillers for India, because in a lot of tropical and hot climates, keeping vaccines cold is kind of one of the reasons why people aren't getting vaccinated. And because there's no electricity readily available, they need to make something that is very efficient. And so that's sort of their long-term goal. And so what we work with them, and I think that's something that you guys can think about if you are thinking about projects on your own is really assess and do a realistic assessment on yourself. And think about whether you have the right ingredients to really launch for it and make something. And we can talk about how to do this in detail later. You can talk to me about that. But this is kind of like the programs that we run people through. I'm going to end it with something that I'm actually quite proud of that we do at work, the Global Lighting Challenge. So this is something that we call light poverty. So 1.2 billion people around the world actually don't have access to electricity. And that means that when the sun goes down and it's dark outside, it's dark inside and dark everywhere. You could build a fire and they might have a gas lamp or something like that. But really, it is dark. And that means economic activity stops. It means that, the kids can't study past that time. It means that, women might be more unsafe because, there are no lights around their villages. So we wanted to tackle this problem. It is surprisingly unsexy. It's diseases are actually easier to get people to really catch on. But I think we're just lighting, just a simple indoor lamp, and to try to save this problem. It's not that hard. It's not that easy to get people to support. But what we're going to be doing is installing a bunch of these LED-powered lamps throughout mountain villages in the Philippines. So this is actually the first iteration of it that we took to the Philippines to test. We got some feedback, and now we're making, it's hard to see, but this is the second iteration of it. It's more linear, it's easier to put together, it's cheaper to manufacture, and we learned a lot from sort of the aesthetics that people would like inside their homes. And what we did there is that our staff went over there and really studied how much money people had. Because this is not a charitable handout, this is something that we want to become a sustainable business. How do we get this cost down enough so that people can pay a fixed amount every month and have a solar-powered LED lamp inside to illuminate the inside of their homes? And so we worked for years, literally years, to create a product, and now we're ready to go back and test this out on a more long-term basis. Things we learned is that we didn't need to spend a lot of money on a big battery that makes this last all night, because people don't need it all night. They need it for about 4 hours a night, right? So that extends their useful hours of the day from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we learned things like a lot of people don't have a lot of available cash, so they pay a lot of things on a monthly basis. So we thought that, hey, why don't we get people in the stores, the corner stores that sell rice and snacks and the oil for cooking, why don't we get them to sort of be our vendors here? And so we're going to be testing out these business strategies over there, testing out to see if this light will hold up against humidity. And so that's going to be sort of what we will do in December. I don't get to go this time. My colleagues will be there in December to start testing this out. Hopefully, in about a year or so, I can report back on how we do. I think that's it. That's my email. You can find me on LinkedIn. Don't call me, but you probably won't be able to find me there. But do we do questions or? Yeah, questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about it? Sounds super interesting. But just could you give us some of the logistics of how it works and how often do you meet? Are there meetings?
Yeah. So the question was about the logistics of the program. And so we run various different programs. So we do outreach events. We call them Entrepreneurship 100. It's a panel series. We get entrepreneurs to talk about how the journey came to be, and we answer questions. And those are sort of like touch points to the community. We don't have a lot of sort of outward-facing meetings like this planned, but we sometimes have specific challenges. So for example, if we work with a funding agency and they want a global health solution to reproductive health, then we would hold what we call a techno storming or technology brainstorming, techno storming. We'll hold one of those sessions and we'll have pizza and people will come in and talk about the solutions. Really, we like working with people like after those sort of on a one-on-one basis to refine their ideas, because a big problem with a big hackathon type event is that you end up with arguments and disputes about IP and who came up with the idea, and that's kind of the mess that we don't want to deal with.
Do you work exclusively with students at U of T, or would you be willing to, for instance, work with folks from Civic Tech?
Yeah, so we don't have it. So some of our programs, like our undergraduate courses and stuff, obviously it's only for U of T students, but things like our main entrepreneurship training program called Techno, we accept groups and students from, and not just students, but groups and people from anywhere, essentially. Basically, what we do is there's a written application, we read it, and then for the people who we're interested in meeting, we do a in-person interview or Skype interview, and then we try to really determine what product or project they want to do, and that's how we do our intake. Most importantly, we want to make sure that we as staff have the technical capacity to help them, because if you're doing something that is way beyond what we know about, then really it's hard for us to help. So no building of rockets or satellites and stuff.
First of all, thank you. And it's impressive what you have done in those countries. But I had a question, like, when you talk about these developing countries and how you have to work projects in there, then I think they have a lot of problems, like, way too many problems. How do you prioritize which ones are the most important? I mean, this is what we were going to work on right now. Besides, how would you go over obstacles? Like, there are a lot of obstacles in those countries. Like, one of the things I said, the problems with IP, a lot of it doesn't have respect for that. Getting licenses, or there are also corruption, and there's a set of problems that you have to get over to start a project. So how would you do that?
Yeah, so the Global Lighting project, for one example, I'm going to talk about the others later. The Global Lighting example, we're thankful because our director, Cynthia Go, she's from the Philippines. She has that local connection, and she's able to wade her way through the corruption and the bureaucracy. And we basically stated that we don't really care about the IP in that project. If you want to build it, we will show you how to build it. We're not that concerned there. Some companies that I mentioned, they are a business, and they try to, their goal is to make money. And so, really, like Just Vertical, they know that their business will take them to sort of the high-end markets in North America and Europe and some of the sort of largest cities in Asia. But really, if they're needing to go to a smaller town or a developing country that does not have this good IP policy, for example, they also don't really care at that point. In terms of politics and how things get in the way, political science, pretty much sort of like an unwritten rule is that they don't travel during national elections. Those are generally sort of unstable times, so we work around things. And I think most importantly, we establish a lot of on-the-ground local contacts because they can give us insights that the news and other reports can't give us.
Okay. I come from a background that is kind of, I wouldn't say academically challenged, but my father has a PhD, and I found out that I have anesthesia, which is like an offshoot of synesthesia, and school is really hard for me. But I'm able to feel ideas. So I started my own company to put out these ideas and continue to create. I found some success within my independent fields because of that. I wanted to ask you, how does your program or your collective decentralize the tools for scientific understanding? Because it's been an academic conversation for too long. It's been a predominantly white male conversation for too long. And I'm finding, like, being the darkest person in the room, it's quite obvious that there are systemic barriers of entry. How do we prevent this moving forward, and how do we give broad spectrum science education to the people of Toronto and therefore the world?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And unfortunately, I think the toughest part is getting the ball rolling, right? So Global Science is trying to do that. They don't only work overseas, they also work with programs here in Toronto, and really getting the kids interested. I shouldn't say that the adults are a lost cause per se, but really we want to get the kids interested in science and to know that we have people of color doing science, and we have people all around the world who want to learn more about science. So that's how we try to approach it. It's quite difficult from my point of view to really get people into sort of the scientific realm if they haven't done the traditional academic route. Because there's lots of like really deep technical knowledge that you can only grasp by spending 6 years doing a PhD, but not everyone can do that. So our internship programs, both paid and unpaid course internships, they give people a chance to work in one of these companies and hopefully act as a role where they can do something with sort of a limited scientific knowledge. And what we found is that a lot of these interns actually grow up, let's say, actually turn out to start building their own companies and start realizing that they can do a lot of self-learning through journals and such. But unfortunately, a lot of these journals you have to access at universities because they're locked. But there are lots of systemic things that we're not trying to tackle, but really, I guess, we're trying to do a little bit in getting the kids to get interested, and hopefully we can prod them along the academic line.